The Fantasmagorium is proud to present Money, Murder in Minnesota, a retrospective of all things Fargo. I think that Peggy is my spirit animal. I would butcher Laverne for her. I just want everything to go Milligan. The award-winning Coen Brothers executive produced and Noah Hawley run FX series. Sorry, I had to mute that. Of Fargo is what we are here for. So let's go. Kat is here. I am Scotty R37, and if Steve is working for the Kansas City Mafia, I'll cut my toe off. Hey, Kat, how are you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
I am absolutely flabbergasted by these last two episodes. I forget the last two episodes.
You literally just watched them.
No. I mean the two before this. And these two episodes, things are really sort of kicking into gear. The snowball is happening.
Yeah.
Are you on your phone?
I'm checking something.
What are you checking? What's going on? Is it
nothing? Keep going.
No. What? Why?
I'm not telling you. Keep going. Keep going. I'm listening.
Okay. Well, so I am very glad. Like I'm sort of scaling this this television series now that we're barreling down towards the end of it. I'm like, is this show as good as Mad Men? Now, both shows had John Hamm, but I think I like Mad Men more. But every now and then, when I think I'm getting bored with Fargo, it does something like this and completely impresses me. Like this final progression, this expansion of Peggy's character and Ed fully embracing his butcher of Laverne. Like, it's quite engaging.
Yeah. If he's the butcher, he's not the butcher of Laverne in the way that they're all saying he is, though.
But he said it himself. It's very strange with these two episodes because the first episode, episode 7, I was waiting for stuff to happen. And in episode 8, shit went down. There's a lot of stuff in episode 7 that is, especially with Mrs. Patrick Wilson. What's her name?
Mrs. Patrick. Yeah, the wife.
She's got a whole bunch of cancer going on.
Yeah,
and it is touching. See, this is why it's strange when we were discussing season 4 and you said there's a lot of characters doing a lot of things and I can't keep track of them. This is the same thing, and both of them have Mike Milligan.
I still know what's going on. Than much easier to follow than season 4. Yeah, much easier.
Well, for you, we differ. But I think I wouldn't say that it's easier. I would just say it's comparable.
Yeah, I had a much easier time following because the story is so much more engaging with season 2.
I suppose. Oh, and that poor Simone.
I didn't much mind.
Well, I just thought she was pretty. I know that she sort of sold out her family and all that jazz, but I didn't. I'm of a mind that no one deserves to be shot in the face.
Yeah.
So she was willing to go on the lam.
Yeah.
Seems like a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Fargo, and it is going to be a spoiler situation. Season 2, episodes 7 and 8. I want to say hello to Captain Notfinity and his French 75. And Eugene Bird, one of our favorite people in the entire world when it comes to the chat. Thanks for being here, Eugene. It's nice to see you. Herc 130 is here. Thank you, Flyboy. Oh, what is this? Welcome to another episode of Mayhem, Herc 130. You are cleared for takeoff. Bunch of stuffs. And then absolutely, Herc 130 says, Kat, you want to give this one a go?
Here's Johnny.
Needs more acts. And then Herc goes on to say, or this one.
There are 10,000 stories in the Naked City. This is one of them.
Nice! Oh, that was rad. Cat, heavens. I
What's
never
that from?
realized. I don't know. Is it Dragnet?
I can't remember.
I think it's Dragnet.
I recognize the quote. I just don't remember the show or whatever.
Yeah, ditto. Totes. Oh, and Kat, you want to give this one a go?
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate the crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders.
Dun dun. These are their stories.
Yeah.
One more?
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far. We're not going through all these, Scott.
Yes, we are. We are going through all of these.
We can read this one.
Mork calling Orson. Come in, Orson. Eugene Bird with a definitively Cat one. You're not doing it?
No, you say it.
No, you.
No, you're better at this one.
Bueller.
I heard he's sick.
Thank you.
Okay, this has to stop or we'll be here all night.
No, we can't. We gotta answer the chat. We have fans. People like us. They want to hear us talk. We're gonna get to the Fargo. Don't worry. We're here for Fargo. Oh, you pretty. Oh, my stars. Nope. Can't do it. Yes. Eugene Bird says you are alive. Canadian Spider-Man says, hey there, buddy. Scotty R37 and Cat. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Canadian Spider-Man, later on this evening when we discuss Thailand. Finity says, oh, at last, Scotty's worse than Madonna.
Wait, when you discuss Thailand?
Yes.
For what?
Canadian Spider-Man is having a stream about Thailand. We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
So
I was wondering what the context was.
Well, yeah, no, totes. Anyway, so I'm going to scroll. You're right. We should get to this. Are we going to get through it? I'm not even going to read a lot of these chats. You okay with that?
Are there actual statements in there or is it just like random quotes?
I gave up.
You gave up? Which means I have to check the chat?
No, I put a star.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now we're starting again in the chat. I'll pay attention later.
So this is the first time they use this motif in the show where they have a whole episode where they don't check in with some of your main characters.
Yes.
But it's also the first and only time in the show where you hear about what's going on with the missing characters and find out more in a flashback where they explicitly tell you things that have been going on, which we've not seen before in this series. And there's actually not much to talk about in terms of the actual content of what happens. Like this episode, the first of the two episodes begins with Bear and his accomplice from Buffalo murdering some suits from Kansas City while they're posing as window washers outside a skyscraper. And the Adam Arkin character shows up again, and he's really upset, and he calls Mike Milligan, and he's like, they said you were better than the others, that, you're a go-getter and all that type of stuff. Oh, thank you, Eugene Bird. But I need you to clean this up for us, or I'm sending in the Undertaker. And he's like, well, give me 2 weeks. He's like, you got 2 days, and he hangs up on him. we then see the aftermath of Mike Milligan's attack at the Gerhardt Ranch. There's a funeral for Otto Gerhardt. He's buried, and shortly after, Lou Solverson shows up with, Schmidt, an idiot, and they decide to bring in Gene Smart's character, Floyd. Yeah, they decided to bring in Floyd to the station because it's time. And she's like, it's funeral day. And he's like, yeah, well, we waited until the soil was dry and to take her in.
Oh, I love Lou and his interactions. Like when he calls him out, it's just glorious, but we're not there yet.
Oh, yeah, like when Bear's saying, how's my son? He's like, state pen, doing great, pending trial, or denied bail. But
that's part of the reason why he shoots the... Anyway.
So they take Floyd down to the police station, and Hank decides to talk to her about, where does the madness end and all this stuff. She's like, well, our backs are up against the wall. You could see that, right? And he tries to convince her that, look, I don't know what you heard about Ed, but he's not a butcher. I'll cut off my toe if he's a butcher. He's not the butcher from Kansas. He's not an assassin from Kansas City. And she suggests that he's like a sleeper agent, like those Russian sleeper agents. And so he just does, Hank doesn't really want to hear it, but he manages to convince her to flip and give some information against Kansas City. And she basically tells them how it is that they smuggle their contraband, which
all of the beans.
Yes, which pisses off the Adam Arkin character who calls Milligan. He's like, I'm sending in the Undertaker. And we see that Mike is still holed up in the hotel, and he's been, bringing in more enforcers. And the pattern on the wall, like the blue stripe pattern, now resembles kind of like a jail cell. And Mike's kind of like feeling, the walls closing in as he doesn't really know how to handle this. And so Lou and Schmidt go in to talk to Floyd next about what the terms of this deal are going to be for her giving that information. And he's like, well, it's not going to cover murder, your immunity. I was just like, what's the point if it doesn't even cover murder? And that was a great line.
I like it how Ted Danson is like, no more murders. All the other murders are fine.
Yes, no more murders from here on out. And she kind of has to accept that. Meanwhile, Bear starts getting kind of testy with his niece, Dodd's daughter, about, she's his name is Dad to you, not Dodd. And he's kind of just annoyed with her and doesn't want her to leave the ranch, but she does anyway. And he sends this guy from Buffalo to go follow her. She goes down to Mike's hotel, the Pearl Motel, and she's pissed off. And it's like, you're supposed to kill my dad. How dare you do this while I'm in the house with Grandma's, and you could have killed Grandma. And Mike is just nonchalant because, he played her because she's an idiot. And they're about to insinuate that he's not just going to let her go this time. And you hear her scream. And that's when Lou barges down the door with Mike. And they're like, are you okay? She's like, I am now. And they help her get away. But when Mike goes down Schmidt goes down the elevator with her, she knees him in the crotch to get away from him, which in hindsight was a bad idea because Bear shows up with his accomplice, and he's like, no, your accomplice will take your car. You can ride with me. And they're riding back to the ranch, and she's talking, and he's like, look, you're still calling him Dodd. He's Dad to you. And he points out that, the whole time
hang on a second.
We can't go we can't bounce back and forth. It'd be too complicated. So I'm just telling
No, I'm just saying Simone, taking advantage of shit cop. What's his name? Do you know? Do you care?
Schmidt.
So Schmidt cop, her kneeing him in the balls, first things first, that dooms her. But also it does, and we'll get back to Lou and everybody else and seeing how shit a cop he is. But like when she shows up outside, it's like, none of the people in this show, except for Lou and the Solversons, no one has any sense. Like, it is bad decisions across the board. Now, I'm not saying that's a character flaw. I'm not saying that that's a malfeasance in the story. It's just like, it feels like Fargo because everyone is making bad decisions.
Well, yeah.
except for law enforcement.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it in the frame of reference of Fargo.
I'm still curious as to how Simone first encountered Mike. Like, how did that even go? Because you could tell in hindsight.
I told you.
No,
I
it's
told
not that.
you 4
No,
episodes ago. Black guy, drugs.
It's not that. She used him because she wanted him to kill her father from the outset. That's why she went to Mike. And he realized
it's so crazy.
He realized he could use her because she's gullible. And like when she needs Schmitty in the elevator, she's like, I'm done laying down for men. I'm done with you people. And it's interesting the dichotomy between her and Peggy. Because on the one hand, you have Peggy who's completely delusional, self-actualization, that kind of thing. Whereas Simone's on the other end of it, and she's kind of like a free-spirited hippie who's just tired of listening to her old, very conservative father and dimwit father and, the whole family business. And she's like done with this. She wants to be her own free spirit. So it's like two opposite sides of this whole feminist movement thing, except with Simone, she finds herself with Bear, and he's already been not interested in where Dodd is. They've gotten a couple phone calls about, hey, we know where Dodd is. He's like, I don't want to talk to him. And he's like, if they call back offering where Dodd is, fuck it. He's out of this family. I don't care. And it's like, finally, Bear is doing something smart. It's like, let's be done with this Dodd
Bear is great.
Yes.
Well, Bear is great until he does the murder.
Well, Bear is still great because when he's driving Simone home to the ranch, he asks her, you've been asking about your grandma and about your dad, but what have you never asked about Charlie, your cousin Charlie, and how he's doing? She's like, oh yeah, how is he? State penitentiary, pending trial. Oh, well, we should go see him then, just being totally happy. And I wonder though, if she had showed like a genuine interest in Charlie and had been interested in looking after him, if Bear would have done what he was about to do.
No.
Because he seems like he was interested when he asked her, like, why aren't you asking about this, about family? Because one thing, she did have an outburst earlier at the ranch where she's like, this whole family deserves the ground. And, Floyd slapped her for that. But even Bear kind of backed her up on it when he's like, well, it's high time people in this family start speaking the truth. So,
well, it does come to a situation where, like Mike tells her that they killed her grandfather, and it was like, you weren't supposed to kill my grandfather, you're supposed to kill my dad. And it's like, whatever, same difference.
Well, yeah, she's a dimwit.
Well, no, but the act of the murder is inconsequential to Mike. Yeah. And she thought it was going to be specific, and that's sort of where the two differ.
Right,
it's
because
like that's where it's over.
He's very in it for the business aspect of it, and she's naive enough to think that they're actually like in love and that he's going to kill her father for her and they'll run off together or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I think she's in it for the BBC. British Broadcasting Corporation.
So she's naive basically, and Bear is not an idiot. He's caught up as to why she always has been skirting away during this dangerous time, and has actually done the smart thing and followed her to the hotel. And so once she's clearly expressed her lack of real interest in Charlie or what's going on with him, there's this gorgeous aerial shot where Bear's in his truck and he turns off the main road and starts driving into the woods. And she's like, where are you going? This isn't the way to home. And he finally parks outside the woods, gets her out to the murder hole. And yeah, it's like a course obviously taken from Miller's Crossing, but I think they do it a lot better here. This just felt so much more dramatic than the Miller's Crossing one.
You're saying this is better than Miller's Crossing? I disagree.
No, not the whole movie, but this scene, like this, the way.
No, but it's interesting. No, you have a valid point.
The cinematography, the music, the sense of dread. Like in Miller's Crossing, I mean, for those who don't know, it's like the John Turturro character, you could tell his goose was cooked. He's kind of an idiot, and they play it almost like a regular scene where they walk along, and then it kind of happens. But with here, there's a palpable sense of dread because you know what's coming, and you knew it was coming the minute Bear got her in the car outside the hotel. Like they don't call him Bear for nothing. We've been waiting for him to do something to live up to some kind of whatever his name is,
aside from eat
the woods. And he basically accuses her of, you're sleeping with the enemy, lying against the family, and all this type of stuff. She's like, I can go. I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. He tells her to get on her knees and hush now. And you don't actually see it, which is interesting. This kind of cut to like a couple different shots of the woods, and you get back to Bear leaving the woods, and as he's getting back in his car, he like smacks the hood a couple times in the door. He's like really frustrated and hurt by what he's done and really annoyed. It's not something you could tell he really wanted to do. He just felt it was necessary in protecting the family. And when he gets back to the ranch, Floyd is there, having made the deal with the cops and arrived back. She's like, "Oh, find Simone for me. I need to apologize for yesterday when I snapped at her for speaking ill of the family." And he's like, not wanting to do anything. And the guy from Buffalo shows up and says, "We got news on Dodd." And Bear just gives him this evil look. And he's like, "Sorry." And of course, Floyd wants to hear about it. But it's like, okay. I saw her end coming somehow. I admit I didn't think it was going to come from Bear. But that was, what did you think? Like, did you see that coming?
What were you talking about?
Like, did you see that coming? That Bear was going to be the one to kill her as opposed to, like, Mike or somebody else?
I do agree with you in terms of the parallel with Miller's Crossing. I did think she was going to die. The most shocking thing about it was that I didn't get to hear the gunshot. Like, usually that's punctuated. Maybe it's a hackneyed directorial choice, is like when pretty girl gets killed, you get to hear the gunshot. And she was pleading and then just cut to the next thing. And I thought that was unnerving. I thought it was good television. And also it was followed up by Happiness Pie. Like, I forget specifically but like, it was obviously a commercial break cut. And when they came back, it was happy. We're glad she's dead.
Well, when he came out of the woods, they were playing like a different song, and he was clearly upset about it. They were trying to play it for a dramatic.
Right. But I mean, like, after his walk, okay, so fine, I'm talking out of my ass. He walked back to the car, and it was sort of somber. What was this song?
I hadn't heard it before seeing. I can't remember what the name of the song is. It wasn't listed in the credits.
It's not a big deal. But but after that, it did switch over to something cheerful.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting juxtaposition.
Yes. And we also...
But I was fine with it because his son, it was crisscross. It was like his son was in penitentiary.
Right,
and
because of Dodd.
She betrayed the family. Like, his son stood up for the family, and Chicky Poo British Broadcasting Corporation decided that she was going to sell out the family, and so it's in the face. I was wondering whether or not Floyd actually said, "Cut a bitch."
Yeah. And it's funny, to that end, when after Floyd made the deal with the cops and Hank and Lou and Schmitty went outside and they got word that Hansi killed 2 state troopers in South Dakota in Sioux Falls, Schmidt's like, "Well, we can't really do anything about that because it's South Dakota's problem. And no, we made the deal, so there's nothing we can do about it." And I love that Lou just looks at him and he's like, "You're a shit cop. You know that, right?"
I love that moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting a promotion, so like a dumbass, he thinks that means he's smart because he's just that stupid.
I'm a manager.
Yeah. Which is funny because I didn't perceive him in season 1 as being really an idiot because he was the one who scolded Gus for doing something, letting Malvo go. But in this season, we're seeing just how dumb he really, or chicken shit that he is, really.
Chicken shit is the best way to say it.
Yes. And so that was kind of funny. And that was kind of a surprise that we heard that, Hansi's in South Dakota. He's killed state troopers. What's going on? Because we haven't seen Ed and Peggy for a while, and they didn't clue us in as to what happened after Ed ran away that night at the end of the previous episode. Things were just continuing. Meanwhile, back at the Solverson house, Mrs. Solverson.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Yeah, Betty gets home and she's got groceries and she sets them down because she sees these pair of shoes in the entryway and she's kind of freaked out. She grabs a shotgun right there from the closet and she steps into the kitchen to find Scotty and Carl Weathers cooking breakfast and everything for her. And she's like, Carl Weathers, that is a good way to get yourself shot.
I love Carl Weathers.
I do. And he's like, well, we're staying and taking care of you because your husband told us to watch out, and I'll be sleeping on the couch, and Scotty here's volunteered to sleep on the floor. And he's like, what? Well, it hurts my back when I lie on the floor, so you're lying on the floor and I'm lying on the couch.
Well, and can we just like tie up the entire Carl Weathers? Like like Lou sent Carl, and his name's not Scotty. What is
something
it?
Like
Sammy?
that.
Smitty? Something like that.
Yeah.
It starts with an S, but it's not Scotty. Trust me, I know everybody named Scott in every movie and television show. But the beautiful interaction between Mrs. Lou, Mrs.
Solverson.
Whatever, shut up. Pronunciation. Like the interaction between Mr. Weathers and Mrs. Silverson.
That's great.
It's so like touching. And it also like, and with Mrs. Silverson, when she is sort of assessing her life in a way of mortality, and she's like, this is all going to be gone soon.
So it's Sonny, that's
his name. I'm sorry?
Sonny, that's his name.
Oh, Sonny. Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
Shut up, Sonny. He's like the Wesley Crusher. Anyway, and so, but like it is very touching in terms of the emotional drama of the story. Like, I think that Fargo does sort of juxtapose. I'm going to use that word again, and people are going to fucking fist my taint. But it juxtaposes. You're doing all this crime for just a little bit of money versus building a life for the sake of love. And Fargo is where those things punch into each other. And while I'm sad to watch Mrs. Solverson die of cancer, it's like she knows, she's being realistic. She's asking her friend to help. And like, I don't know, it's touching in the middle of all of this crime.
She thinks now that she has the placebo pills.
She does think that.
And Carl's trying to be optimistic. And Lou had even called Betsy at one point and said, oh, ask Carl about John McCain and the Vietnamese thumb screws that he survived. He'll tell you. And he actually starts telling her that on his own, and she cuts him off. And she's like, no, I'm asking you to look after him. And my dad will probably need some looking after pretty soon, too. And she says, tell Lou that it's okay if he gets married again, if he needs to, but not to this Rondo lady. Her eyes are too close together. I'm like, what does that mean? It's like a old Minnesota predator. I don't know. But she says that. And it's funny that when she says that, oh, John McCain, it's silly to compare me to him because he's a fighter pilot. I'm just a, housewife in Minnesota. And I kind of wanted Carl to say something more encouraging. Like, it really doesn't matter that he was a fighter pilot. You're not, but he doesn't, because you could tell he doesn't want to break down. But he wasn't kidding when he said earlier in the beginning of the season, oh, how horrible it is that a woman like her come down. He meant it, so he's like really trying to fight back the fact that he is really broken up about it.
Well, I thought that he was gentlemanly and reassuring, but Mrs. Silverson was always in charge. And so when she was like, you don't have to take care of me, I appreciate that you're here, but I am going to take care of myself. And in factual, can you take care of the people that I am going to leave behind?
Mm.
And I thought it was heart swelling. It was great.
It
It
is.
was
That's
lovely.
one of the things I really like about this season. They can do something
Yeah.
like really funny, really dramatic, and then have that. And then there's another moment with Betsy in this episode where she goes to her dad's house.
Oh, is that her name, Betsy? I can't
Betsy.
wait to stop calling her Mrs. Salverson.
And she goes into like Hank's office, and she sees that he's got all of these like alien like symbols written down on paper all over the
What
room.
was that about?
That was the biggest mystery of the season for a lot of people. They won't bring it up again until the very end of the final episode.
Okay.
At the time, I'm looking at it because she did just tell, Carl in the previous scene that, oh, my dad's going to need looking after soon. Like there's something going on. And then, so you see he's got all these books in there and all these weird symbols with written down almost like a made up language. It's like, what's going on? And I'm not going to spoil it yet, but we won't get back to that until the end. But she's clearly worried about it.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
I won't. Meanwhile, with Mike, I noticed that he's feeling increasingly uneasy, even though he's shoring up his defenses in his hotel, just because he doesn't have control.
Oh, yeah.
Not in charge. There were quite a lot of people at the start of the episode in there with him, but I guess they're all getting killed off because now it's just back to him and the lone kitchen brother.
We're down a twin.
Yes, and in comes the Undertaker and a tall white guy in the buzz cut, older gentleman.
Oh, I love this suit so much.
And he's got like this, I guess it's like an average height guy, but he looks shorter compared to how tall this Undertaker's standing next to him. And they're going up the elevator, and you see how it's got the infinity mirror in the elevator. So it's just like you see the dread of like the Undertaker as he's coming up the elevator, whereas Mike is just feeling, whereas Mike is feeling all small in his little pinstripe jail cell, like wondering what's going on. And the Undertaker comes in and he says something derogatory, like, "Where's this little like pinstripe?" Yeah.
Not like the wrestling Undertaker.
No, like a funeral graveyard Undertaker.
Tall white guy in a white suit.
Yeah, tall older white guy, probably in his late 50s or early 60s, in a suit, in a dark suit, and the type like professional that you call in, like that old cliche character.
You know what? We're spending too much time because Mike ends up just eliminating.
Oh yeah, it's great because Mike is kind of nervous, and the Undertaker walks in and he says something derogatory, like, "Where's this pipsqueak or this piece or whatever he says?"
And he says, "Where is this eggplant who can't stop shitting the bed?" Which is both racist and derogatory to his intelligence and capability. And as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh no, you're gonna die," and he does.
It's great because Mike just kind of exhales and he walks into the room, extending his arm. "Gentlemen, nice to meet you." And then he just flips this great move where the pistol's like already in his sleeve, and he slides it out and just right in the head. And then the kitchen brother pulls out a knife and stabs the other guy in the neck, and they're dead. And he just tells him, and Mike just tells him, "Bag the bodies and dump them in the woods."
Well, tell him the Gerhardt's got him.
Yeah, just tell Kansas City the Gerhardt's got him. No big deal. And then the phone rings, and he's nervous. He isn't sure if he should answer it or not, but he picks it up, and we hear Ed's voice, and he says, "Are you Mike Milligan?" Who's asking? "I'm about to make it your lucky day. I got Todd Gerhardt in the back of my truck. You want him?" And that's where that episode ends.
Now, I would like to say, because I'm going to jump around now.
Yeah.
One of the best things that I heard is in the next episode when Mike Milligan says, "You wouldn't mind it if I kissed you on the mouth when I saw you." Never mind.
No,
like, I didn't like episode 7. I thought episode 7 was boring and plodding.
I liked it because I thought it had those two great scenes in it, the Miller's Crossing one and the one with Carl Weathers and Betsy.
Sure. But aside from that, I was like, when are things going to happen? And the best part about this show in general is that the next episode had continuous or parallel timeline going with it.
Yeah.
And so it recontextualized the episode that I had just watched, and I was like, oh, I gotta go back and watch that again. Like,
Right.
the structure and how it all worked. Episodes 7 and 8 take place at relatively the same time.
Yeah.
It is brilliant storytelling and brilliant television. I think that the worst thing in the world is that Noah Hawley doesn't do other things. What is he doing next?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know he did Legion, and then he did. I'm not sure what his new thing is on the table, but
I thought he had a new thing.
Yeah. I remember there was another funny line in this episode when
yes,
the Gerhardt guy from Buffalo, he's like, yeah, I hear the Kansas City guys might be in Sioux Falls. That's in That's in the state where the presidents are. Their faces are on the mountain. We should probably get that back. It's like, God damn, these people.
Where is Mount Everest?
Himalayas, Nepal.
Oh, sorry.
You meant Mount Rushmore.
That's it.
Yes, that's in South Dakota.
Where's Mount Everest? I don't know. It's beside George Washington. Yes. South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
I should go there. I want to see giant faces.
I've never been there.
Neither.
But so that was funny. And then Lou also got a notice at the same time when they found out that Hansi killed State's troopers, that two people matching Ed and Peggy's description are there by the lake, and they got a phone call about it from some gas station clerk. So that's where Ed and Hank, or Lou and Hank are going. But then again, episode 8, the way it's edited, it backtracks to pick up right after Ed ran away from Hank and Lou after being rescued from the police station. And we see that Ed went back home, where Peggy got Dodd tied up in the basement, but she's sitting on the stairwell, envisioning
having
this guy.
Hallucinations.
Yeah, I don't know if he's supposed to be a psychiatrist or what, but he's talking about the self-actualization.
I think he's the guy who's in charge of the resort.
Seminar?
Yes.
Yeah, you're probably right. And he's talking about, Peggy, how are you so far with your self-actualization? Like, how's it going? And this goes on for a while until suddenly Ed shows up. He's like, Peggy, hon. And she kind of snaps out of it. And Dodd's like, your woman here is a bit crazy. She's talking to people who aren't there. And Ed's just telling them to shut up.
Not a bit crazy.
And he sees this dead goon on the ground. And she's like, oh, that wasn't me. That was him. And he's like, well, we better take him with us. And so they throw him in the trunk of the car and they take off, leaving just as Ed and Hank, or not Ed, I keep saying Ed, but just as Lou and Hank are showing up on the scene. Hank still having his bloody forehead injury from when Hansi decked him, and they go inside and they can't, and they're just too late because they missed him. Hansi, meanwhile, lingers outside the house and just kind of, watches, and he sees the direction that they went, and he starts following them. Yes, it all comes back to the seminar, indeed.
We gotta get to the seminar. We get there here too.
Yeah, so Hansi searches their house.
It doesn't work out.
Yeah, so Hansi searches their house after Lou and Hank leave, and he sees all the notices for Peggy's seminar and the dates and the locations of it, and so he decides to head there to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We know the Sioux Falls incident coming. And so he's on the road going there, and Ed and Peggy have holed up inside this cabin by a lake. They got Dodd tied to a chair, and every once in a while Ed goes down to the gas station or the general store or whatever to get little supplies and make phone calls. And he's been calling the Gerhardt's ranch, and they're not interested in having him because Bear has been very explicit that don't tell grandma, but we're not or don't tell my mom, but we're not interested in Dodd anymore. Leave that piece of shit out to dry.
Well, and also, it's the same sort of power struggle within the family. It's the same thing. Remember when we had, what was the big, crazy Italian guy who was fighting against...
Right,
yeah. Same kind of familial tussle.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting in this case because Bear almost seemed... It's like, yes, he was fine following Floyd's orders, but he didn't seem to be aware of the fact that Dodd had lied about Ed being part of Kansas City mob. He was kind of not really in the loop. So it's like I was wondering at what point did did Bear just decide that, okay, I'm done with Dodd and his stupidity? Because on the one hand, he thinks Dodd's daughter should be that Simone should have been more respectful for her dad, but he obviously has no respect for his brother anymore because he has no shame. Yeah, leave him to rot. Who cares?
But that's the thing that flipped Bear, is that Dodd is the person who promoted his son Charlie to prison.
Yeah.
Like, he sacrificed, and what Bear was trying to do was to make Charlie an educated man.
Yeah.
So, you know what? You sent my kid to prison. It's about time I put a bullet in your daughter's head. This isn't my decision. I'm not saying I would do that. I'm just saying that's what Bear decided.
So then at the moment, you thought Peggy couldn't get any crazier.
No, I can't.
Ed leaves to go to the general store by the lake, and
she's
Peggy,
so pretty.
Oh God, she's talking to him, and he's giving her a little bit of backsass Dodd is, and so she just stabs him in the chest, like with the steak knife that she's got.
Twice.
And he's like, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Oh, well, you're not going to have any of that type of talk and that kind of thing," acting like a totally oblivious housewife, just like when she hit Ryan with a car. And she brings over like baked beans, and he starts eating them and pretending to like them. And so when Ed comes back, it's hilarious, and he sees him all bloody, and he's like, "Hun, what happened?
Did you stab him?"
He says, "Did you stab the hostage?" And she's like, "Well," and Don's like, "Yeah," and Ed's like, "Shut up, I don't want to hear it from you." And she's like, "Well, it's all fine now. It's not a big deal. We don't need to talk about that." And he's like, "Hun, you can't cut up the hostage too much, or they're not going to want him back."
It's hilarious. It is really funny and disturbing.
Yes, and I thought it was even funnier that later, while they're sitting there, when Don's like, he needs to take a piss, and she's like, "Oh, I can help," and both of them say no.
No.
It's like even Ed doesn't want her near him anymore, because it's like, no, you're gonna like.
Well, and that's also like, that's part of the reason why I love Peggy so much, is because Dodd is also be like, keep her away from me, please. Oh my stars, I don't want anything to do with that lady.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's so
I want Ed to come to a grisly demise so that I can find Peggy and take her to the seminar, because Kirsten Dunst is charismatic, adorable, and lovely, and I don't care how much crazy you pour into that package. I want to hug it and love it and call it Mary Jane.
Yeah, well, Ed's kind of getting near the end of his rope with her. We're seeing that almost quite literally in this.
Oh, and the cinematography for that, when they were like, "Oh, I'm self-actualizing," we're running from the police, Peggy. And I think that we can do whatever we want. There are a lot of people who want to kill us. I know, but we're on a road trip. Like, the cinematography of the show is so engaging and so good, just to even establish characters.
I also think this is probably Jesse Plemons' best performance in anything I've seen him in. He's so good as Ed in the show. So meanwhile, we get to check in on who turns out arguably to be the season's breakout character, Hansi Dent.
Yes.
And Hansi has arrived in Sioux
Doesn't
Falls.
give a fuck.
No, I love it. He goes into this bar and he asks for a glass of water, and the barman gives it to him, and he's like, "Did you spit in this glass of water?" And he's like, "You know what? I'm going to have a glass of liquor, but pour it in front of me." And he does it again.
Yeah.
And he's like, and the barman's an asshole. He's like, "Didn't you fellas try and start up your own country of Wounded Knee?" He's like, that wasn't me. I'm not, again, an asshole thinking, "Oh, you're Indian Usme, same as everybody else." And the barman's like, "Well, I don't think I want to serve alcohol to somebody who doesn't want to be an American." And he's like, "How about somebody who served 3 tours in
3
Vietnam,
tours, Purple Heart,
and Bronze Star?"
Yeah, Bronze Star, yes.
And the barman's an asshole and he doesn't care. And Hansi's just like, "You're welcome." And he walks out of the bar and he sees this pile of vomit next to the brick wall of the bar. and there's a plaque above it that says, "Here on this spot in 18 whatever year it was, 22 Sioux Indians were hanged." And he's looking at the plaque, and he's looking down at the vomit and all the disrespect and all of that, and almost like it's a plaque, not of commemoration, but like almost like celebration
of pride. I thought it was a
pride. And he's walking back to the car, and then these three assholes, redneck pieces of shit, come out of the bar and are taunting him and racist taunts, giving him shit and all this kind of, "Oh, Coach Cheese wants this and Little Feather, blah blah blah." And Hansi just finally, he just closes his eyes and looks up and he exhales. He's like, and he just turns around and pulls out a gun.
He starts blasting.
Yeah, he shoots the first guy's knees out. He shoots the second guy's knees out. The third guy runs like hell.
Runs away.
And Hansi walks back into the bar, and the barman's like, "I already called the cops." He just, bam, pounds him right in the head.
No, in the chest. It was
in the
great.
chest.
Nothing more satisfying than center mass.
Yeah, he hits him right in the chest. He turns around and walks back to his pickup, and the state troopers must have been literally right around the corner because they zoom around in their truck and like, "Oh, it stands up," or whatever. And Hansi just grabs his rifle, assault rifle, out of the truck, and he just mows down the state troopers, and he gets in the truck and he just drives off. Not panicked or anything, totally calm, nonchalant. He's like, yeah, he's done with this bullshit.
Well, he gets in the news.
He does, and we see wanted posters are around, and that's how Hank and Lou found out that, oh, Hansi's wanted for killing 2 state troopers in South Dakota. So meanwhile, he keeps following the evidence or following the trail to the seminar, and I can't remember her name, but Peggy's coworker, the one who's been egging her on about spending the money on the seminar instead of the butcher shop in the beginning.
We'll call her Lululemon.
Yeah, she hears a knock on the door and gets excited thinking it's Peggy, and she opens it and it's just Hansi standing there. And back at the cabin.
It was terrifying. It was a jump scare.
And because he's just standing there looking all nonchalant, like not like, oh geez, a guy devoid of an immortal soul at this point. Like he's ready, like you said, the Malvo type aspect of it, like he's ready for it. And
he has resting bitch face, except his resting bitch face means death.
Yes, and back at the cabin, the phone starts ringing, and Peggy answers it, and it's her coworker from her hotel room, and Hansi's sitting next to her, holding her tight, holding up with the phone, and she's doing her best to try and get Peggy to give up their location or to come to the motel.
Beautifully shot.
Yeah, split screen.
In terms of building the tension, split screen, the way that, and I don't know the names of the actors except for Kirsten Dunst, but
Kirsten Dunst and Zahn McClarnon.
Hamzy's got the lady, and he's listening in on the receiver. It's just so tense because that Hamzy's hostage is trying to survive, and as usual, Peggy is clueless AF. And then after they kibitz for a while and not much information is like conveyed.
Yeah, just a vague
at the end of it.
At the lake near Versamillion or wherever they are.
Yes. Oh, but don't worry. He finds it. Spoiler. But he puts down the phone, and then the lady is like, "I tried. You heard me." And then he just pulls her hair, and you're like immediately like, "Oh no, she's dead."
Yeah, he's just doing this. They
never show her death. But as soon as he pulls the hair, I'm just like, "Oh no, poor girl."
Yeah, I mean, she was ditzy and she was putting ideas in Peggy's head and all of that, but she didn't deserve to die. But it's like, Hansi is just checked out, and so she's done for. And back at the cabin, Ed has gone down to the store and making conversation. The clerk is trying to make conversation with him about he's the only guy out here, nothing except you and the moose. Lemon Pie says Hansi only kills people who use a grease shampoo. Buy a bottle today. And so Ed's not able to get much leeway now. He goes back to the cabin the next day. He calls Mike Milligan, And when he tells Mike, I got Dodd in the trunk, you want him? And this is literally right after Mike killed the Undertaker. And he's like, son, would you mind if I just kissed you when we showed up? And Ed, being the thick idiot that he is, doesn't understand that Mike's appreciative, which is why he's saying this. Not that he means he's literally going to kiss him, of course. And Ed's like, huh, what? And he's like, yes, I'm very interested. He's like, you might have heard of me. I'm the butcher from Laverne. And Mike's like, yeah, I've heard a great deal about you. And, they're going to set up a meet at, until the next day. And they made the plans. Ed feels confident. He hangs up the phone. He sees the wanted sign for Hansi, and he gets back in his car to go back to the lake. And shortly after, Hansi pulls up, buys some stuff in the he goes in the general store to talk to the clerk, to like interview him or whatever. And the clerk is getting all intimidated. He's like, look, this is a family place, because he was asking about Peggy first, and the clerk clearly gets the wrong idea, like as if he's looking for like a woman to have a one-night stand with or something. Yeah, and Hansi then
asks for a redhead.
Yeah,
well, someone asked me if I wanted a redhead. Of course.
So then he's asking about Ed, and the clerk's like, well, if you're not really going to buy anything, you should probably leave. Of course, they're riffing on, the gas station scene from No Country for Old Men, where Hansi or Sugar is in there, and the clerk is like, we're closing now, all that kind of crap. And Hansi's, like you said, he's got that resting bitch face just looking at him. He's just not going to take this bullshit from the clerk. But he just kind of, he's like, oh, the lake. And he gets him talking a little bit. And so he decides to let him live, which I'm like, oh, okay. So Hansi leaves, but immediately the clerk sees the wanted poster and realizes, oh, shit, that's the guy. And he runs to get on the phone. And we cut back to the cabin where Ed has gotten back there and Dodd's gone. And the ropes are all loose. And
oh, no, but there's a beautiful... Again, I want to say this is a beautiful representation of insanity. Is that it shows Peggy watching television.
That's right.
And then for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, it just goes into the absurdity of a television show from the 1950s.
No, it's the same Ronald Reagan movie that Molly was watching on TV at the beginning of the season.
Oh, nice.
About the one that he's talking about, and the one that the one that he was talking about, that Reagan talks about. Oh, where I was in a movie once in 1942 when he's talking to Lou in the bathroom about the Nazi SS colonel or whatever, and that's the movie that Peggy's watching on the TV, and that's the one that Molly was watching.
With the cold people.
With the what?
The cold people, when we actually see it on set and we're waiting for Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. But it's also it goes from being like 4:3 and it fills the screen, and then you are immersed in this fantasy of nothing. It's just bullshit. And then when Peggy snaps out of it, Dodd's gone and reality has come crushing in.
Yeah, she looks up over her shoulder. Again, a great shot, because we know what she's looking at. We just don't get to see it. And then it just cuts to black, like a hard black for what was a commercial on the, when it was on TV. But so when Ed comes home and he opens the door and you see that Dodd's missing and you see Peggy lying behind the bed. You can't see her. You just see her legs. And Ed is like really nervous and he starts walking in to get near her. And then Dodd just comes out from behind like the fridge or something, throws a noose around Ed's neck and throws the rope over the beam and starts yanking him hard and starts hanging him. And Ed goes as red as a tomato. It looks like he's dying. And Dodd is taking up a conversation with him about how, oh, you need to control your woman and all of this. And I bet it, I don't see what women are always telling us all this kind of crap. And, I truly believe this, that Satan is a woman. Think about it. It makes sense.
You know what? And this is the thing, is that when I saw Dodd say that, I was like, you know what? I kind of get MGTOW.
Get what?
MGTOW.
Enlighten me.
Oh, it's an acronym. MGTOW. Yes. Men going their own way.
No, I don't think I've heard that expression before. Interesting.
It's like leaving chivalry behind. Treating women like chattel.
Well, that's been Dodd's shtick the whole season.
Yes, true.
And he sees...
It's a Roy Tillman move as well.
Yeah, and he sees Peggy starting to crawl towards him. He's like, "See, I told you, Satan. She's conniving and all this kind of stuff." And he walks over towards her, and I thought he saw her pick up the knife, but he wasn't really concerned about it. But then she just jabs the knife into his boot, and he screams, and he's trying to get it off, and he cuts his hand on the knife when he reaches down for it, and Peggy reaches for it and breaks the handle off.
Oh man, I've been seeing so many things lately about breaking the hilt off of knives. It's always a good way to go.
Yeah.
I'm saying if I ever get into a knife fight, I'm going to stick it into somebody and I'm going to break off the handle and see what happens.
And Ed looks like he's already passed out beyond dead. His face is red as a tomato, hanging like this.
Yes.
But Peggy rushes around until she finds a hatchet, and she uses it to cut the rope. She pulls the noose off of him, and he starts coughing back to life pretty quickly. And he says, "Is he dead?" Referring to Dodd, because she has struck him in the head with a fire poker. And he's not. And she's like, "Oh, I think it's done for." But then Hansi just kicks the door in. It's like, "Oh shit!" Here's Hansi. And he's got the gun pointed. He's like, "Get away from Dodd." And so they move away from him. But he's not like angry about it. He's just like, "Okay, move away." Let's see. Eugene Burke. I was in Operation Enduring Freedom, but it was only 3 days before the Iraqis were wiped out. When I got back, my brother's friend had been shot at a party. The occupation was much more dangerous. Shit.
Huh.
Dang.
Hell of a party.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. So that sucks. So in all seriousness, thank you. Yeah, definitely. So Hansi shows up. Yeah, he tells him to get away, and he's just talking to Peggy because he knows she's a beautician, and he asks her if she can give him a haircut, a professional type. And she's like, "Well, you got the cheekbones for it, and the bone structure and all that." And then Dodd's like, "Oh, just shut up and shoot these people, will ya?" And then Hansi, without even thinking about it, just kills Dodd, just right through the head. And Ed and Peggy are like, "Oh," and he just looks straight back to Peggy. He's like, "Can you do it?" Like referring to the haircut. Like he doesn't even care about Dodd. Like, "Nope, eyes on me." And she's like, "Well, yeah, I could." And so he sits down, and she's
terrified.
Nervous. Ed's they're terrified. Ed's kind of terrified because he doesn't know what to think. And he's got the gun there, and he's like, "No tricks." And she's like, "No." And she gets the scissors, and like excellent cinematography closing in. She's slowly starting to cut his hair.
Oh, yeah.
And Hansi just says in a very dejected tone, he says, "I'm tired of this life."
Yeah.
And we all know what that means. And then right at that moment, we see Hank and Lou closing in. Hansi spots him, gets up to start shooting, fires a couple rounds, at which point Peggy stabs him in like the back of the shoulder. And Hansi flees. And then Hank and Lou barge in the cabin and are like, "Hands up." And Peggy and Peggy and Ed are just like, "That's it, we're done." They're just going to surrender because there's nothing else they can do. And that's where the episode ends.
And it is really great in terms of contextualizing the last 2 episodes. Like, it is a binge-worthy show. Like, this is chapters in a book. But I think that if you don't watch episodes 7 and 8 back to back, I think you're robbing yourself because episode 8 makes episode 7 better.
Well, I remember watching this the first time and how it like torture it was to have to wait a week between to find out what happened. I'm like, "Oh, what do you mean Hansi killed State Trooper? What's going on?" And Eddie Payne, "What the hell's happening?" And then when he got the call when he calls Mike Milligan at the end of episode 7, I got Dodd. I'm like, "Oh, geez, the suspense is just killing you at that point." It was so well done.
Yes.
But I think, like I said, even though other seasons have done the thing where they'll have an episode where they exclude the main characters and just plot or other stuff for a while, this is the first one where they actively tell you what those missing characters are up to while we're not with them. None of the other seasons have done that yet. And I think that actually worked with heightening the suspense to eagerly get you because usually the 7th episode in a Fargo season is kind of like you mentioned, kind of plotty, doesn't really do much. It's usually the calm right after the storm of usually the 6th episode where you have all the carnage. And the 8th episode is kind of setting up your climax, which this one did. Because now we know that Mike and one of the Kitchen brothers, and certainly more backup he's going to get, are on their way to Sioux Falls to get Dodd for leverage. Hansi, we don't know where he went. He just took off, and we now know that he's really pissed off at Peggy because he thought he could trust her and thought he could trust them, and then that happens, even though he didn't bear them any ill will. Even Ed tried to say rather stupidly when Hansi shot Dodd, "Oh, thank you for saving us." Like that was going to help him score points, and Hansi was like, "Shut up." But yeah, it's like the suspense was top tier.
Thank you, Trip.
Definitely DVP or DVP, yes. And
it's
again,
good to be a strong man, of course, but there are plenty of wonderful ladies out there. And I care for all of the peoples.
And after these 2 episodes, I still have no fucking idea what self-actualization means in Peggy's eyes. Like, what the hell?
Oh, you're not self-actualized?
Whatever that means, if that's like a self-help guru thing or what, because it's not really clear. Like, even when her coworker was on the phone with her, pleading with her basically to come there. It's like, oh, they got the 1-step program and the 2-shot step thing to get you to be in a better way, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm still not really clear as to what this is. But her delusions are just, I mean, God, we saw it in the basement with all the magazines that she has. It's like an extension of her psyche.
Well, self-actualization is kind of a delusion.
Yeah.
It's motivation. It's motivation for yourself. And it's don't think about what you do, just be.
Yeah.
And so when you are self-actualized, it just means that you are certain of how you are being. You're not thinking about it. You're just being. And that makes it so that you have a certainty, and that means confidence, right?
Mm.
And my entire 12-step seminar can be purchased for $499, and we end up in Fargo, North Dakota. 4 days at a Radisson.
Pass. Well, actually,
yes, please pass it on to your friends, because I can give you serenity now.
Okay, never mind. If you were the one leading the seminar and we got to meet in person at Fargo, I would probably go there for that.
Kat, you're fucking undercutting my fucking sales pitch.
Well, Peggy also seems to think that self-actualization will happen if she moves to California.
Of course she does. Everyone does. So did the kid from fucking.
Wouldn't that be a cool joke? Like, oh yeah, we'll move to California, but we'll send you to the Mojave or like Lone Pine or somewhere like that.
Long nights like this on the Mojave makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
Yeah,
that's a Fallout reference. Anyway, so that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, it was a good couple episodes there.
Kicks into gear again. 7 and 8. Like this has had some ups and downs. Like there's been, and I don't mean ups and downs in terms of goods and bads. I mean in terms of heights and denouements, resting times to get to know the characters, but also exciting shit.
Mm.
Like this is going great.
Yeah.
I love it. I love season 2. When does Kirsten Dunst get naked? When does Jesse Plemons get naked? I want to see that guy's dick. Never mind. Move on.
Neither.
We're not going to get there? Okay, fine.
I think the closest you got to that was when he's standing in front of the fireplace or when he's in the bathroom with Peggy.
I did see his bum. Yes, I'm a greedy man. I'm sorry. I saw some Jesse Plemons nudity. I should be grateful. I think I saw his nipples. Anyway, thank you. Catholicism, wow. Agreed. So that's it. Anything else? I wasn't gonna read the chat, but if you want to, you
what was he
can.
saying that in reference to?
Oh, probably something about blaspheming. I was gonna get a snack and go have a smoke. Do we have to read the chat? Do we have to read
Let me check. Well, I'm going to check it because I can't trust you right now because you keep saying that. So let me check and just see if there's anything worth highlighting here. But we will thank the people who have shown up tonight in the chat, like Lemon Pie, Captain Infinity, DVB, Eugene Bird. Always a pleasure.
Slow down. They like to hear their names.
Let's see. So, oh, here it is. Eugene Bird says, here it is. We got to put this one on the screen. Eugene Bird says, self-actualization is the top of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Your security and belonging needs are met, so you can focus on being all you can be. Right, but I wonder what that means to Peggy, though. Like, what does she think she's going to become?
A baby.
Maybe.
Well, remember what Jennifer Jason Leigh said to Roy Tillman? You want responsibility to be a baby.
Oh, that's true. Eugene Bird also asks, what does my shirt say this time? It's the national, former now, Reno Air Races. Salute to champions, Reno Air Races.
For a second there, I thought you were going to, like, take off your shirt and put it to the screen.
Of course you would, because you're Scott.
Yeah, well, I like topless people.
Am
I wrong? Yes.
Okay, I was just scrolling through the chat. Please don't read the chat. Please don't read the chat, Captain Infinity says. Was a reference to Dogma. Okay, yeah, that's what it is.
Yes.
Everyone knows that. I don't read the chat. We were just babbling on, except Eugene Birdie actually has something to say. Cat owes Spielberg and Lucas like $1 billion, Captain Infinity says. I don't
Why?
know. I don't know
care.
why. I don't know.
I don't think you owe them shit.
Thanks for everyone who came here tonight. It's been fun, and we'll be back next week, Scott.
I doubt it. Herc says, I thought Maslow's needs was fruits, veggies, calcium, and whole grains. No, wait, that's the food pyramid.
Oh, yes. Captain Infinity says, I owe Spielberg and Lucas $1 billion for destroying the Indiana Jones franchise. I don't know how I did that. How do I owe them $1 billion for that? I don't follow the logic there. Okay.
I don't know. I don't listen to that guy, really.
By noticing that Temple of Doom absolutely is not. I didn't notice that. But whatever. I'm not gonna. I can't follow it anymore.
Welcome to the Fargo show. We're talking about Fargo. Whatever you want to talk about, couldn't care less. Anyway, so we're done. We're good. Welcome back to the finale next week. We got the end of season 2.
Yes.
And it's also the end of Fargo for us.
Yeah, until they come out with another season, for sure.
Yeah, it's over next week. So it's a big celebration. We're going to be talking about it, not only the end of season 2, but also what we think of the series in general, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a big time. It's going to be a good time.
For sure. Yeah, you betcha. Yeah. I was reading the chat.
You can't. Don't read the chat.
I was reading the chat. Oh no, there's good chats in here. Oh
no, you should only read it. You should only read it if it's Eugene Bird. We done? We good? Can I go? What are we still?
Yeah, you betcha. Yeah, you can go.
Okay.